Okay, we're gonna take a look at back to Eden growing method that Paul in Seattle has been teaching over the internet, YouTube. Back to Eden gardening, if you don't know what I'm talking about, and using wood chips. So you can see the area that I've got, and started out with raised beds. Couldn't get any wood chips, so I did the best I could with some raised beds, and I used black paper, the black paper that you see there. You can use that black paper as mulch, and I tried it the first time last year, and I could not believe the results I got. I put down the paper, cut small holes in the paper. There's different ways you can do it to make it a lot easier. I did it the hard way, but I just tested 2 rows about 25 feet long, and actually made heels and covered the heels and had 3 rows of okra plants, and those okra plants did exceptionally well, and we had heat indexes. We're west of St. Louis, and we had heat indexes last summer over 110 degrees, and I did not put 1 drop of water on any okra plants after I got the okra plants big enough to where they shaded the hole that the plant came through in the black paper. So the black paper will definitely work, and it's fairly cheap. And this is paper that I used last year, and you can see I've covered up my raised beds to kill the weeds that I allowed to grow, like in this one. And here I've got cucumbers. So you can see these are cucumbers. These are sweet alibi hybrids that sweet gherkin pickles are made from. So we like sweet pickles. And then we had this is a purple hull pea plant that just came up. I've never grown purple hull peas in this one. I don't know how I got over there, but it did. And I even have 2 purple hull pea plants that have sprouted up over here. I've got one that's right there. And these are flowers that you see coming up all down this thing. So this will be a hedgerow of wildflowers. So I have that pea plant there, and there's actually 2 right there. So, and here's another one. So there's 4. So nothing has ever been grown here. I put these wood chips. These wood chips I spread out here. Today is June 5th. 2017, and I spread these out at the end of January. So I wasn't even planning on growing here, but I pulled them back and took a look, and it killed all the grass. The grass looked just like that. Well, it wasn't as green, of course, at the end of January, but it was grasses with thick roots. But I put these very thick, as you can see, a good foot, and in some places I'll show you much deeper than a foot. So I have wildflowers in that row. So once I pulled it back and saw how good the soil looked, I was like, well, I can grow in this. So I decided I will grow in it this year, even though this section here that goes down to the end of that box there has only been covered in wood chips since the middle or 3rd week of January. So not very long. But good enough to kill the grass and make it where I didn't have to do anything except I raked back the wood chips and got down to the dirt. And it was very moist and very soft. And the dirt here gets hard as concrete when it gets dry. And when it gets wet, it's so loose that it moves. It's almost like quicksand. And there's virtually no rocks in it. So it's not very good soil as far as that goes. It'll grow stuff, but it gets real hard. It's not ideal. So I just pulled the wood chips back with a hoe and put my seeds down. I covered the seeds with peat moss, just a nice little layer dusting of peat moss on top of them. Soaked them real good, and you can see some wood chips. I didn't pull wood chips on top of it, but I have learned since that you can do it that way. You can go ahead and pull your wood chips down, and as long as it's very thin and they're not huge, as long as they're small, light wood chips, you can put the wood chips over your seeds in a very thin layer and the seeds will shoot right through. If they're big beans or something like that, they'll have no trouble at all going through an even thicker layer. Now here you can see a bean that I planted is coming through. You can see it, so I'll just take some wood chips and sprinkle on top of that. So I didn't bury it good enough. So the smaller the seeds, then you would want to make sure you have a thin layer on top of them where they can come through and you're not bury them where the seed sprouts and then dies. So I decided to go ahead and grow here. So I got this one row of wildflowers, and then I've got 6 rows here, about, I'd say approximately about 19 feet, 18, maybe 18 or 19 feet. And these are Foodhook lima beans. And we can't find those in any grocery stores nowhere in St. Louis. So they're hard to get. They taste very good when they're green, and you pick them and you can freeze them. So they're very good. And they're like a fat lima bean, so they get fairly large. And you get about 4 out of each pod. So and they're bush beans. They only come that way. There's no vine, so they only come in bush beans. So I got 6 rows, and I've got enough seeds to plant one more row, but I kind of ran out of space right here. I could come down here, but underneath there's a lot of large sticks, and this actually I just covered grass with these wood chips about not even a week ago. So at the end of May 2017. So there's green grass under it. So I'm not going to bother planting in this. I will plant down here. Now this section of the garden here, I actually got wood chips around January, and they were put right up there between, right where those 2 boxes are, right in that area. And so 2 truckloads from the guy. There's a big bullfrog. It's the first one I've ever seen out here. Can't believe it. Unbelievable. Hey buddy, you like the wood chips, eh? I did see lots of garter snakes when the chips were piled up and had lots of worms in the top of the pile. Lots of garter snakes. So then once I got them spread out, I didn't notice that the snakes, and I haven't seen any snakes once I got them spread, but like in the pile like that, I did see a lot of snakes, all garter snakes. So no poisonous snakes, thank God, no copperheads. So this area where I'm standing out here, I got the first load of chips dumped here. And that was around August 2016. And so this has been covered for a long time, and you can see that it was much, I mean, very deep. It's still very deep in here. There's a good foot of wood chips in this area on the ground. And I'll show you the outside of this fence. I have tons of rabbits here. So I've got an electric charger that I'm planning on putting also inside the fence there, running an electric, 2 strands of electric fence around the bottom to try to keep out squirrels and rabbits, because I'm growing corn. But you can see how deep it is. This is all mulch right here, all that. So the ground would have been even with the sidewalk, and you can see that's about a foot, maybe more. You can see how it's raised up. So this area here has been covered all the way down to about right here, has been covered pretty much since around November. So my ground has not been covered very long. Not long enough to really improve the soil. But I can use it for covering and go ahead and plant. So I don't have the benefits of it decaying and turning into soil or what you'd call compost. So, but it'll still serve my purpose. Weeding is the main problem. If you've ever grown a garden, that's where the work is. So by using any type of mulch, black paper, tarps, anything you can put on the ground that will stop the weeds from growing will save you about 80% of all the work involved in growing a large garden. And then the second hardest part of growing the garden will then be your harvesting and processing your food. So this is okra plants. I've planted these first 2 rows probably 10 days ago, and you can see the size of those. And I also at the same time planted from the same seeds that I soaked overnight in warm water in a warm area, and so they would help them to germinate. These are the same ones, but being in here, these boxes, when I put these boxes out, I filled these boxes, well, not completely full, but about half full, so only a couple of inches, maybe 4 inches of compost. And the okra in these boxes I planted after I planted these 2 rows, and the okra in these boxes, the stalks are much bigger and the leaves are larger and the whole plant is much larger. Now some of the very small ones, like that little cluster and this little cluster here, that little cluster over there, I just planted those. I came back and filled in those areas where I didn't see any okra growing. And I did that because my plan was I just broadcast seeds in there, and I took a rake and I just moved the soil around. So some of them are so close like that one that they're not going to make it. But I soaked in the neighborhood of about 2,500 okra seeds, something like that, because I've got tons of them. So I'm not planning on thinning these. I know some people will say, you know, you shouldn't have them too close together. I've experimented, and with the okra you can grow them literally just side by side. You will have some that will outgrow the others, and you can go ahead and once you notice some are going to be very small, you can go ahead and thin those out. But I wouldn't thin them any more than what I had to, because you'll notice there'll be one in there that is getting no sunlight and is not ever going to grow and make okra. So go ahead and get it out. But this way you'll have lots of okra, and we like it, and we sell it, and we sell the seeds, and we end up with plenty of seeds left over to meet our own needs. So I can't grow too much. It's easy to grow, and I encourage you to grow it. Some people like it boiled with soups. We like it fried. So got some kale. I put this in there. When that grass started growing, I grew romaine lettuce in here last year. And when it first sprouted, I thought, because it was everywhere in this box, and there was no grass, none of that type of grass in this box last year. So when it started sprouting, I thought, because I allowed the romaine lettuce to go to seed, I thought, wow, wonderful. I've got romaine lettuce coming up all by itself. Well, once it got bigger, I realized that it was grass, and I have no idea. That box next to it has none of this grass in it. So I don't know how that grass got in there, how those seeds got in there like that, but they did. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our corn down here, and I'm not sure if I'm going to put anything else out or not. Maybe some more wildflowers. I wanted to have the whole perimeter done in just a hedgerow, if you will, of beautiful wildflowers to draw hummingbirds and butterflies and insects. We even have milkweed in there for the monarch butterflies. And but I ended up not realizing that I was so close to the sidewalk that coming on the outside and putting an electric fence is not a good idea, even though no one ever uses it. I doubt anyone's ever walked on it in the last 10 years. But I'm going to have to put the electrified part on the inside of this chicken wire, and for squirrels and things that may get in here. But that's how it is right now. So got some more wood chips to spread and more stuff to plant, and I have to cover this one area here, and that's our Back to Eden garden. And I will post updates and pictures, video, and any tips that I get, and I'll share it with you guys. So good luck with your garden in 2017.